Sabbath afternoon. I took the command to rest literally.
Well, yes, I did too. About, 3:30. And I said, you know what? I was down. I probably went down. I usually only go 15, I went 40.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, you beat me. Okay, okay.
I'm like,
Not bad.
what happened there? Whew. So I went outside and there was a lizard in, I have this can that I catch water in for my swamp cooler, and I put a hefty bag in it. Well, the hefty bag has some holes in it, so anyways, I'm looking down at it when I start the machine up, and there's a lizard trying to get out.
Oh,
Can you
no.
help him? I did. Well, good for you. Yeah. I just turned it over because there's hardly any water in there, and he shot out. That's two Sabbaths in a row with a lizard.
Really?
Did I tell you about that 2 days?
You have an
Didn't I
Adventist
tell you
lizard.
about the lizard story?
He has an Adventist lizard that only comes around on Sabbath.
Well,
Huh.
one got stuck in a sticky trap by himself.
Oh no.
Oh.
Oh no. Hey. It's possible it might have been him, but when he got on the trap, I took him in the house, because it was in the garage. I took him in the house and I took my Ajax dishwashing soap and I put it around his body and I took a butter knife and I worked him off the sticky trap.
Oh.
And I put him in the sink and I went on to clean him
No
up.
wonder he came back. He needed another bag.
You're like, that's good care.
Well, it took me about 3 hours over the course of 3 hours.
Wow.
And so the third time I gave him a bath, I put him back outside on the stone, and right before dusk I went back out to check on him, because he kept sticking to everything. I put him back out, inside a couple times. He kept sticking, so he couldn't get off. So the third time I went out there and I nudged him, and he was stuck a little bit, and then boom, took off.
Huh.
And he greeted me for 3 days in a row when I got home from work.
He needed the bath.
Anyways.
That's cool story though.
Yeah. So I saved his life, or his life. Today.
Well, he was in a sticky situation.
Well, today was too, because he was at the bottom of the glad bag
And
in
he
the
couldn't
trash
get out
can.
of it because it was too
I mean,
slippery.
that would do that to anybody. Yeah, that's.
Let's start off with 508.
Okay. 508. Is that your favorite song?
All my songs are favorites.
fast she plays.
She has to play fast, but she's got somebody over there leading. He waits for no one.
Every time
She's
she played,
blaming
it was
me.
red. You know, it's like.
Say, he doesn't play that fast right now.
493.
I was gonna say, we could go fast.
493. Was that
It's okay to overeat.
to overeat?
And fill my cup with
What are you filling your cup with?
God's wisdom.
Well, you can overeat on that, yes.
Yes.
Eat all you can hold.
How about 369?
All right. Yes. Is that too high? Okay.
That was some big C there.
Yeah, he lifted you up, didn't he?
466.
All right. Is it, they're all good, they're all good, I'm telling you. Suggestion of 4:28.
Hey, we might have to go to 4:26 after that one.
Oh, yeah. Yes, of course.
It's a couple of kids of Jesus.
You want 426?
Okay, let's.
Roll this. Okay, sorry.
Can't sing too loud. Praise the King.
That's right. Woo. Any others?
245?
245. Yes. Oh, Hannah, are you listening? It's 245. More about Jesus. This is one of your favorites. No, yeah, that's right. They'll all stay under there,
Okay.
hopefully, you know.
It's got it covered.
Yeah.
He's got the cover down.
He's
that
got it,
helps.
he's got it covered.
Nothing will get embedded in the ceiling.
Oh, yeah.
111.
111 and then 215, okay. 214?
We can do 214 first.
No, we'll do 111.
111. No worries.
That's like 213 is usually like that too. You guys like that one?
Lift up the trumpet.
Everyone, I was gonna say everyone knows that one, right?
Seventh-day Adventist evangelists. Just the other day, I saw an article on the internet, the earthquakes are increasing, in terms of frequency and whatnot. So, it's taken a while, but the secular world has caught
They're
up.
starting to see it. Amen.
I must admit that for all these years, I would use that phrase to people. I'd say, and kind of chime in just slightly, and I'd say, like a mother in childbirth. You know what happens with a mother in childbirth? And they kind of look at me, as you know, as the child becomes closer to conception from your mother, I said, don't those contractions come a little bit more and more? And I said, and it's just like that. When the Lord Jesus comes, God gave us something so meaningful.
Right.
And
these earthquakes, when people say, did you feel that earthquake? I'm used to earthquake that kind of shake you off your feet.
yes, I know. Yeah.
You know it's an earthquake.
That's right.
You don't have to ask anybody if they felt it. You know.
Yeah, you know it. That's right.
I've been shaken off my feet 3 times. Woo. No. It's a good thing because it is really, the body's not ready for it. It is quite a tumultuous event, for the body to realize that.
All right. Elder Russell, will you open us with prayer, please, sir?
Father, your goodness has been shown here in this song and praise, and the voices in this small company are so, they resonate to you, and I hope, Lord, you have been glorified in this moment we have been a part of. Thank you so much for bringing us tonight together, and may your light so shine through the words and inspiration. May your Holy Spirit grant us this perfect peace as we continue on. In Jesus' name.
All right. Well, You guys just won't believe what the devotional is about tonight.
Earthquakes?
Kinda, sorta. Our text is Matthew 24, verses 29 to 35. And it says, but I'm on the wrong page. Okay. Matthew 24, 29 to 35. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with the great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn this parable from the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near at the doors. Assuredly, I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away.
Amen.
Yeah, because you know, they come and go, don't they? But the word is always there.
That's right. So, I just want to talk about something that happened historically. There's a couple of dates. They can be verified independently from the history books for people that want to verify the accuracy of the Bible. We call it the 1260-day prophecy, but it is believed to have begun 538 AD. It was in the year that a decree of Emperor Justinian went into effect that assigned absolute preeminence to the Church of Rome. Again, that's something that you can look up in the history books. It is a fact, not an opinion. And it is also a fact then that 1260 years later, something else happened. And we can see that from Revelation 12:14. It says, and to the woman, which is usually referred to as the church, were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time and times and half a time from the face of the serpent. A time is usually a year. And so a times is 2 years, that's 3.5 years. Of course, we know that February 10, 1798, again from the history books, that General Berthier, he'd probably want to kill me if he heard me pronounce his name, but it's the best I can do, and he's not around to correct me. So he marched to Rome. He entered it unopposed on February 10, 1798, 1260 years later, and proclaiming a Roman republic demanded the Pope of renunciation of his temporal authority. Of course, the Pope declined, probably not so kindly. Upon his refusal, Pius was taken prisoner and on February 20 was escorted from the Vatican to Siena and thence to Certosa, pronunciation anybody? Near Florence. Later the Pope would die in exile. Though the Pope was replaced, the power of the church was broken. So what did the Bible tell us? The Bible told us that not too long after that we're going to start to see stuff happen in the sky, right? Well, there's a lesson from the night the stars fell. And burning meteors populated the heavens with thousands upon thousands of stars falling sometime after sunset, November 12, 1833. Several hours before the sun rose, the first star fell. Then it was as if the heavens collapsed. People who witnessed the astonishing display across North America spoke of it even decades later. with eyes wide and a quiver in the voice. There's a couple of accounts of people that said they wrote about it. One person wrote, "It seemed as if the whole starry heavens had congregated at one point near the zenith and were simultaneously shooting forth with the velocity of lightning to every part of the horizon. Thousands swiftly followed in the track of thousands as if created for the occasion. Never did rain fall much thicker than the meteors fell toward the earth, east, west, north, and south. It was the same." Another person testified in a word, the whole heavens seemed to be in motion. Well, it's not the only sign that we have of the end, is it? There are wars, there are diseases. Certainly, love is growing cold. They talk about an increase in knowledge. We certainly have a huge increase in knowledge. Moral depravity. But I believe that it also is significant that we should take note of the historical event of the falling of the stars. There was one person that they woke up and it was so bright that they could read the clock on the mantle inside their house from the light of the meteors. They were sure that something on their property was on fire, so they ran to the window to look out. When they looked out, though, he says, "Behold, the stars or some other bodies were presenting a fiery appearance. They were descending in torrents as rapid and numerous as I ever saw flakes of snow or drops of rain in the midst of a storm."
Wow.
The dawn was a full hour that morning earlier than usual. The whole eastern sky was transparent like molten glass,
Wow.
so as I never witnessed before nor since. An open arch of brilliant light arose from the east, above which arch stood the morning star, inexpressibly glorious for its brilliance and firmness on the face of the dark, transparent, and bursting firmament. On the night the stars fell, William Miller was a 51-year-old lecturer unwittingly starting a movement that gained momentum until the great disappointment 11 years later. Some of the other leaders of the church, James White was 12 years old. Ellen Harmon was 5 years old. Joseph and Purdy Bates, who were certainly very key, were a middle-aged couple living in Fairhaven, Massachusetts. We're going to talk about some of these people eventually. Jay and Andrews, what's that?
It's kind of interesting, you 11 years later, and just in the sermon today, they were only to then have 11 days in
Oh.
the journey
Yeah, interesting.
in the wilderness. Or was that you, Dave, that brought that up this morning? But anyways, 11 days.
11
This
days.
is 11 years.
Maybe that was, Yvonne in children's stories.
Maybe.
Oh, I think it was. I think it was children's story.
Fascinating
Yeah.
how they have parallel.
There was an 11. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's beautiful.
You know, one thing too, back in those days, just about everybody would have seen it, because to go to the bathroom, you had to go outside,
That's true.
There wasn't any street lights.
go to the outhouse.
Just think of when the sky was dark. Yeah.
Lights in the homes weren't that great.
Right,
back
you
then.
probably had kerosene lamps or whatever.
If you're lucky.
Yeah.
I was even before whale oil, right?
Nowadays, we got so much light.
Yeah.
Probably have had something like that, but with all the light we have in the world now, it obscures a lot of that.
It would almost be anticlimactic.
Yes.
Yeah.
From what we see right now.
Yeah,
But I wanted to note that, I think, because it is a historical event. Most people believe that it has some prophetic significance as far as the Bible is concerned. It's something that has never happened like that, ever before that, or ever since in recorded history.
In isolated areas, you know, I used to have a newspaper clipping in the mid-1990s on readout across, across Cook Inlet. Volcano blew, you know, about midday, and it created this big dark cloud, and over Kenai, all the streetlights came on.
Wow.
It was so dark, you know.
The darkness, yeah, that's another one, that's right.
So, I mean, that was
Yeah.
just in one area, but I mean, you can have repeats, maybe not on a global or North American scale, but.
It is interesting that, that Joseph Bates, I've read something by him that he was a sea captain, of course, and he was not in North America when it took place. Where was he? Was he in Brazil? Yes, I think he was in Brazil doing trading, and he saw it there. So it wasn't, yeah, it was quite a, but you're right, yeah, there's been darkness too.
But really, I know you're gonna probably point out that God was going to make a move, and hopefully his followers on the earth would move with him in that momentous occasion.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think we can even kind of apply this to these solar eclipses. There was a big one here in North America a couple of years ago.
This year?
Well, there was just one down in South America,
Yeah.
and people get real excited about these things.
I was thinking of the lunar.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah. And it
And-
turned blood red this year.
yeah. And when these things happen, it can be
I even saw
a
it.
draw to the scriptures.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's according to the scriptures, yes. I think that these things are significant because what God is trying to point us towards is just like the verse that we were looking at, that you can see the trees come into season. And you may not know exactly when the leaves are going to come out. You don't know exactly when the fruit is going to appear, but you know it's going to be soon.
The seasons.
You know because the season is rolling around. You can look at it, you can say, you know what? Here it comes. Here comes the harvest. I know the harvest is coming. It's close. And that's why he sends us these things, is he doesn't want us to lose our focus. And it's an easy thing to do, but I think that he really wants us sometimes to stop what we're doing and what we're thinking about and say, you know what? Jesus is coming back.
Yeah.
Am I ready for that?
Yeah, to him, like the song we just sang about, once we were lost, but now we're found. And this fear that we have it's amazing fear, because it's a fullness that is given to us to admonish.
That's right.
That these things we see are not to us frightening, they're spoken by
That's right. And that's why he wants us to know and love him right now. So that when he shows up, it'll just be a continuation of what we have going on right here on earth, right now, today.
And he doesn't want us to be in fear, and so he gives us,
That's right.
he wants us to be comfortable in him and know that he's with us no matter what.
That's right.
Because if we fear the future,
Yeah.
then it takes us out of his hands, because when we're in Satan's hands, if we fear the future.
That's right.
And he gives us signs for us to know that he's with us always,
So
through the end.
yes.
And he does not want us to fear the future.
And
No,
so
that's
the
right.
proverb is, the beginning of the Lord, the fear of
Yeah, the
the
fear of the Lord is the
Lord.
beginning
You
of
got
wisdom.
wisdom.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Right.
And you're right. I don't think that he wants us to fear the future. I think he wants us to be excited about it.
Right, of course.
I think that he's excited about it, and he wants us to be too.
Yeah, that's
Nothing
it.
to be afraid of.
To take that fear and move it over to this fear,
Yeah.
The fear is that we've been hiding, this fear is we've been enjoined, and not severed from the source of life.
Yeah. We should only fear that
Oh,
that we should forget how he's led us in the past. Is that? Yeah.
beautiful.
And he has already overcome the world, we have to remember that too. That he is all powerful,
Yes.
has overcome Satan.
Yes.
And so we have to remember that he is stronger than Satan, because Satan wants to deceive us a lot of times with all the clouds and all the darkness and stuff.
Clutter,
Clutter and stuff and chaos that he puts in our life, but he's not, God is stronger than him.
That's right.
And God reminds us of that daily.
Like Joshua and Caleb's child story this morning, a victory that is certain,
That's right. And I think that Satan wants us to fear what is coming
Yes, absolutely.
between now and when Jesus comes. But I think that Joshua and Caleb were a very good example of just saying, the Lord is with us. We can overcome. And they were rewarded for having that perspective, so.
I mean, you can imagine just little David going up against this big, huge giant, because David probably was 5 foot tall, and the giant was twice his height and all this kind of stuff. You know, we have to have that kind of faith, because David didn't fight him with a sling. He actually fought him through God, and he had, so we need to think of that, because everything about us, about Satan's world is big and mighty, and beautiful, and, you know what I'm saying.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can put on a show, but it
Yeah.
isn't like the show that's from heaven.
Yeah, that's right. And never will we be put through something that we wouldn't be able to handle with God.
Right.
And,
We
that's
remember that.
amazing. You know, when you really kind of just keep rolling that around your head, that there really is that in it all.
Yeah.
You know,
Through it all.
yeah,
Through it all, he's with us.
yeah,
Through the fire.
yeah.
And like Mrs. White said, the final movements will be rapid ones.
Right.
That's right. And we can be very glad of that. We
Yeah.
can be very glad that as we see that season come rolling around,
And you know, it hurts though to see the anxiety levels rising though.
Oh, yes.
You know, it's like, wow, that is, you, it just, my heart just burns inside. It's like, man, don't go there, don't go there. You know?
It's like verse 30 that we just read, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn. They'll see the Son of Man coming in the
Yeah.
clouds of heaven.
Yeah.
I mean, there's gonna be, you know,
Yeah.
it's gonna be,
It's almost like
it's gonna be difficult.
you almost sometimes sense that we're, and we don't know the day or the hour, but you almost sense that the blanket of plagues have been falling for a while, and yet we haven't got to the place where it is final exposure.
yeah,
You know, I mean, I think it's so exposed now, it's like, I've never seen it exposed, you know, that governance is
Sure.
is not.
yeah. And I don't want to get too political, but even as
No, and I'm
things
not
start
talking
to,
about that governance.
but-
I'm talking about, you know, the enemy's I mean, he says, look, do whatever you want.
yeah,
And I think that the God of heaven is so amazing to let it go and say, you know, let
Yeah.
your yea be yea and your nay be nay. I mean,
Mhm.
I've given you everything. So here,
yeah.
you trust me and I'll show you.
Mhm.
Just, it's remarkable, that vision just keeps reeling up heavier and heavier, you know, in the mind, in the heart.
Yes.
You know, it's to know that we're secure in him. And it's a reality,
Mhm.
you know, it really is. There's so much evidence. Oh my word,
But the
how
thing
can you
of-
not see?
But
the
the thing
God?
of it is, there are so many people that I want to have come to heaven. So many people I still want to come to know him.
Right, but I mean, it's exposed for all
I
the
know, but
minds
you
to
know, you
just
just
grip
don't-
it, you know,
You
and
think
see
you're-
it.
You're really excited about God coming, but you go, God, you gotta wait on this person, or you gotta wait on, you know, just.
You know,
But it
Yeah.
breaks his heart more than it does mine, but you see what it's just
Yeah.
hard.
and I was talking to someone about that just last week, you know, and then they were kind of saying the same thing. Well, what if the Lord comes and they're not ready, and it was their immediate family? And I said, you know what? Between now and then, the thing to remember is that God's never going to give up
I
on them
know, it's
No.
not.
to the last second.
And then he doesn't even.
He's going to put people in their path
Right.
that represent
Right.
him.
Right.
He's going to have the Holy Spirit simultaneously pulling on them. He's going to bring events into their life. He's going to bring everything that he could possibly do
We can do it
to
all.
get them to change their mind. And it'll only be through their sheer determination to not follow him that they could be lost. And so
Yeah,
that's who God is.
Yes,
That's right.
it is, because
And so,
you look back at what he's done in my life, you know, I don't know where I would be without him. And so I know that he's not going to give up on all of them, because we pray for him, and I know that he hears our prayers.
that's
And
right.
he's gonna do it in his way, not my way.
it's just a miracle to talk about these things. It really is, to sit down in a company of people and be so overwhelmed by that love and the respect that he puts out those importance, you know, for us to seek and to know and be bathed and wooed in the circumstances that we have, coming and going. and I don't really know how to come and go like God does, but he is so frequent in reminding us of it.
Mhm.
You know, and that way we can look at his comings and goings for us.
Mhm.
And ours will be just like a shadow, you know. Not that he doesn't love us, he does immensely.
We can let the world grow strangely dim, can't we? Elder Greenlee, will you close us with prayer, please?
Lord, thank you, Lord, for this Sabbath day that we have enjoyed in your company, the company of our church family. We appreciate the opportunity to worship and to praise your name, to study your word, and to contemplate your word, and do so with the freedom and liberty that we enjoy in this country, to worship however we want, whatever way we want.
Amen.
We appreciate that, Lord. And, Lord, we are all stirred by reading the scriptures about your soon coming and the signs around us, because we see them, and we've seen them for a long time. We also see the increasing intensity of the events of this world and the events of the natural world, the created world, and the heavens around us. And we know that you are coming soon. And Lord, our prayer tonight is for those who have not embraced you, for those who have not made the decision to follow you. And we know, Lord, that their lives hang in the balance. But you are ever faithful, you never tire, and we know that you will do everything in your way possible for them to make the decision to be on your team
Amen.
and not the enemy's team. So, Lord, we will continue to pray for those, our loved ones and friends and the people that we meet, that they may come to know you as their Savior.
Amen.
And tonight, Lord, we ask that you dismiss us and grant us your peace, and your angels be around about us. And whatever our hand finds to do this week, Lord, we pray that we may do it with you, that you may be in our heart, and you may direct our paths and guide us. We thank you. We ask this in your name tonight. Amen.
You know, that is, I think, what is so exciting, inspiring, but also sobering about October 11 coming up is that for our loved ones that may not be close by or whatever, we're counting on the Lord to bring people past them. But that's what we are doing here in this area. There's people that are being prayed for in this community, hopefully by us, but by others too. And this is our opportunity to serve the Lord by putting out this message, and there's going to be advertising of all kinds. They're going to see it. We're going to be inviting them here to hear the truth and to be loved by a Christian community. And that's what it's all about, is that we will have the privilege maybe of being the answer to prayer. That somebody else is praying somewhere else for a loved one that happens to be here. And that's what it's all about.
That's really what it is. It is a merciful God saying, I've heard your cry. And people have, from all walks of life, including maybe even some of us here in this congregation,
That's right.
have been crying for expressions from God and just clarification on certain things.
And God is saying,
and we hope and pray for that
That's right.
reunion.
God is saying, I've got the Lake Havasu City Seventh-day Adventist Church, and they're going to be putting the truth right before your eyes. They're going to have a handbill, and the Holy Spirit will be there tapping them on the shoulder, be like, look at this thing. And it'll be their choice.
That's a good God.
It is.